Hello there, my name is Armando. I have a very active lifestyle, which means I usually have a lot of energy and a natural tendency to use that energy to do things with intensity. But I had to learn there is a very seductive relationship between intensity and the feeling of progress. In fact, intensity has a very persuasive psychological appeal. When we increase effort, we feel committed. When change feels demanding, we normally assume it must be meaningful. Difficulty itself becomes evidence of value. I have been deeply susceptible to this mindset. In fact, there were many periods where I believed progress required escalation, more structure, more effort, more pressure, more optimization. So intensity felt synonymous with seriousness. And initially, intensity often feels energizing indeed. It sharpens focus, it increases momentum, it produces visible movement. So there is something emotionally satisfying about pushing hard toward an objective. But intensity also carries a hidden fragility that becomes visible only with time. It depends on unusually favorable conditions: high energy, high motivation, low interference from life. When these conditions inevitably shift, sustaining intensity becomes progressively harder, not because commitment disappears, but because reality reasserts its complexity. What I slowly began observing is that intensity produces volatility, rapid acceleration followed by fatigue, so strong bursts of adherence followed by collapse. The pattern is familiar to many people: ambitious starts, unsustainable expectations, and gradual erosion. Yet, gentler adjustments behave differently. They lack drama, they lack spectacle. They rarely produce the immediate emotional high of intense change, true, but they tend to survive disruption far more reliably. They blend where intensity often breaks. This creates a paradoxical dynamic. Less intensity often produces more continuity, and more continuity often produces more real progress. But continuity is psychologically understated. It does not feel heroic. It does not satisfy our cultural fascination with extremes. Subtle progress can even feel disappointing when compared to that excitement of drastic shifts. And over time, my perspective changed. Progress is not necessarily proportional to effort or intensity. Progress is proportional to behavioral sustainability, what can be maintained through fluctuations of energy, mood, and circumstance ultimately reshapes our life trajectories far more reliably than impressive but unstable bursts. Intensity is not inherently problematic, but mistaking intensity for effectiveness can be, because stability, not spectacle, determines long term outcomes. Something to consider, and as always, very curious about how this resonates with you.